Well, here we are, guys. A special episode this time. It's a little bit of a clarification. I know we're watching the Randy's Adventure series on my channel, but I wanted to tell a little bit of a story because it's an unusual story. And I entitled this episode, I Was Detained at Walt Disney World. Well, I know that's kind of a shocking title, but I wanted to explain it so everybody understands. And I figured the best place to do this would be sitting over in my arcade over back in New Jersey. So I'm over here sitting in front of my Fascination game. And the reason I'm over here is because I have to explain this so that people understand it properly. And here's how it happened. As we've taken you now through the episodes and all the adventures of all the efforts in order to go down to Florida and for the purpose of being at my house and going back to Walt Disney World in Florida as a guest. Of course, I used to work there, and I was a guest for even longer. There's a big process in order to going down on vacation, but we go there because Disney is so special. And as I have pointed out in a few of the episodes along the way, that when I actually first got there and got my pass, I really felt rather it was unwelcoming with the initial period there over at the Disney Springs, where I had to go to get my pass, and the guest relations people who didn't want to be on my camera or take a picture with me. I found, honestly, the attitudes at guest relations to be somewhat snitty. Now, oddly enough, if you watch that video when I'm going to get my pass, you'll see I stop at a security cast member when I enter Disney Springs, and I ask him where the guest relations area is. He was the nicest guy. He didn't mind being on the video. He's joking. He's pointing around the bed. He tells a joke. That's the way it always was with Disney cast members, and hats off to him for maintaining the spirit. But unfortunately, it's not always that way. It used to be always that way, but things have changed in the world, and probably not for the better in a lot of instances. And as I said in that video, has something happened that cast members are now afraid to be on people's videos? Did social media cause some sort of incident that, now they don't want to stick their neck out being on somebody's video, and then they're on somebody's, platform and they lose their job? I would say probably a lot has to do with that, even though they didn't say that was the case. The excuses that were offered to me were that it's a matter of inclusion. And I don't quite understand that connection. How are you being included in something if you don't want to be included in somebody's, video? When I was a cast member back in the day, and we're going back to the mid-'80s and so, we couldn't wait. We couldn't be on somebody's picture or video fast enough. Video cameras were a new thing back then. They were just really coming into major population use, and everybody was walking around with a big camera on their shoulder. And, you couldn't wait to be on somebody's video. And maybe that was naive, but at the time, it certainly seemed, harmless enough. Now, today, you have internet and social media and, people posting all their memoirs. And I've posted videos that I've taken 30 years ago on there. And people are thrilled and glad to see themselves. But it has changed in the respect that people, I guess, are very, very cautious about that. And I try to respect anybody's opinion. If they don't want to be on the video, you'll see, like when I posted that video about guest relations, you didn't see the person or the incident about them not wanting to be on my video. I didn't post that because I asked them and they said they didn't want to be. If I ask them and they say they do want to be, that's another story, because I try to respect everybody's wishes. But it just strikes me odd, as somebody who's gone to Walt Disney World since the beginning. I mean, I date back to the spring of '72 as my first visit, and they opened in October of '71. So I have gone to Walt Disney World really from the very beginning, the very first year. And I was a cast member for a lot of years, and it simply would have been unheard of for a cast member to refuse a guest when they asked them, do you want to be on my video? I mean, it would be very unwelcoming. And the whole purpose of being called a guest has to do with the fact that you are being treated as a guest in Walt Disney's home. So it's pretty unwelcoming when somebody doesn't want to participate or be in a photo or a video with you when you have them at your home. I wouldn't do that to somebody who's in my home. If I let them in my home, of course, they're welcome and I want them to be there. So it's a little disturbing to me, I guess, because of the past history more so than anybody else. But be that as it may, we accept the circumstances which are, and we make the best of them. I'm certainly not talking down about anybody who doesn't want to be on somebody's video because they have their reasons. And as human beings, we always respect people's reasons. But there is a certain feeling that you get when, somebody you're speaking nicely with doesn't want to be on, your photos. So be that as it may, that's that one particular subject. But as you saw me videoing myself going on the train and, going through the aspects of, getting down here and the car and all these things, I finally get to go to Walt Disney World as a guest to go see some things beyond just getting my ticket. When I went to Disney Springs, it was just getting my ticket. Disney Springs is not my cup of tea to begin with. I'm not an alcoholic. I don't go drinking. It has no allure to me as far as the party atmosphere is concerned. And I'm not a big shopper in designer stores, which they have a lot of them, and that's fine. And there are people who like that, but it's not for me. So I went there for a purpose to get my ticket and I left. But the next day, I went to the Magic Kingdom parking lot for guests because I wanted to go see the resort hotels. I wanted to stop at the Polynesian. I wanted to stop at the Grand Floridian. And then I was going to go to the Contemporary. I wanted to have dinner. Hopefully at Chef Mickey, which I was having a hard time getting a reservation for through the online system. And I wanted to stop and stay for the electrical water pageant on Bay Lake behind the Contemporary later that night. So I had my whole day planned, and that was the itinerary. So I arrived, not early in the morning, I arrived midday, later, early evening, so I could go through this. And as you saw in my video, I got out of my car, I took the tram to the Transportation and Ticket Center. Then I went through the Transportation and Ticket Center, got the local monorail, and I went over to the Polynesian Village Resort Hotel, where I walked through. I reminisced a little bit about the way things used to be with the lobby and the waterfalls and the parrots and all the plants that they had inside. It was so beautiful, and now they've changed it to being open air. I stopped at one of the merchandise stores, and I gave them support through patronage by buying one of the Mickey Mouse figurines, which I thought it was a 50-year Mickey Mouse figure for the Happy Thing, but apparently same type of figure. It's now for the 100-year celebration, which is fine. I mean, I wanted it, so I bought it. And I asked the girl at the counter if she would, be on my video. She wanted to. We did the video. It was very nice. She was nice. Everything was fine. So from there, I wasn't going to go downstairs and waste some more time because my time was limited and on a schedule, and I wanted to hit the Grand Floridian and then over to the Contemporary so I could have dinner. So as I go to the monorail to get the monorail to the Polynesian, that's where I ended the video that is coming up, because I was detained at the monorail station. When I walked through to the platform, security, a big security host, blocked me, and he asked me to turn my camera off, which I did. And I said, what's the matter? What happened? Whatever. He says, I have to wait here for the security manager. So I was detained, and he stood in front of me to block me, so I couldn't go any further. And he was going to hold me there, and he told me that I am being held for the security manager. He didn't know why. This was his orders, and I was really, really quite taken back by that. In all my years of going to Walt Disney World, I have never in over 50 years been told that I'm being detained for any reason whatsoever or being held to see a security manager. So it was a little unnerving, but I certainly obliged by it because I certainly am not doing anything wrong. So I'd like to see what this is all about. So we're standing there on the platform, And a few minutes later, another security host appears, and he was from Haiti. He had the accent from Haiti, and so did the first security host. They were both with a Haitian accent, which was a little bit difficult to understand their proper English. And the second host was going to take over. He seemed to have acted a little bit like a superior to the first host, but he was not the security manager. And now he was going to take over and hold me at that location for the security manager who was on their way because they've called a security manager. So we're standing there for a little bit, and then I'm becoming aware that guests are watching what's going on. Now, I was a cast member for a good long period of time, and I am very analytic and I'm aware of my surroundings. So we always watched for good show. Good show meant that the show, which is an ongoing show at Walt Disney World, for guests who are experiencing, we don't want to ruin their time, ruin their day, so we don't do anything that is out of the ordinary in front of the guest's eye. And here I am standing with two security guards who are stopping me, and I'm noticing around me guests are watching. So I said to the second security host, whose name was Lolo, we should perhaps go inside and, stand in the lobby and have a seat, because I saw two chairs just inside of the lobby. So we walk inside together, and there were two chairs pretty near each other, and I sat down in one, and I invited Lolo, would you like to sit down, in the other chairs? We're waiting. He didn't want to sit, which is probably protocol. When you're a cast member, you're not supposed to be sitting down on the job. It's bad show, but here we are. I'm being detained and everybody's watching, and this is kind of bad show too. So finally, the security manager arrives, and it was a lady, and she was dressed nicely, and we began to talk. And I said to her right from the beginning, I says, isn't there some place that we can have whatever discussion we're going to have that's not in the view of the guests? Because if you look around, you'll notice the guests are watching this, and it's really not appropriate. It's a very bad show. So she agreed, and we said, we'll find a spot. So we walked in like a parade, like you're in some kind of jail march. She walked first, I'm behind, and Lolo's behind me to make sure I don't dart off away because I'm being detained. And we walked down to the elevators at the main ceremonial house, and she asked, do I want to take the stairs or the elevator? And I says, it's up to you, I don't mind. So we took the elevator down to the first floor, and we went over to the front desk at the Polynesian. And everybody knows the front desk. If you stayed at the Polynesian, it's been pretty much that way for, the beginning of the opening. It's one of the few things that hasn't changed too much. But I never stayed at the Poly. It was only something I passed by. And the guest, the security manager for security, she went to the guest the guest services people at the front desk and asked them if their back room was available, that we could use it for a while. And they said it thought it was. So she went in the back and checked and came back out and says, yeah, the back room's available. Let's go in. So we went past the front desk counter into the back area, and there were a couple rooms, and we turned to the right, and there was a small room where we went in, and there was some counters and a desk. And to be honest with you, it was quite a thrill to go beyond the front desk at the Polynesian Village Resort Hotel, because even in my days as a cast member, I didn't get to see the area behind front desk at the Polynesian because it wasn't my area, and it would not have been appropriate for me, with no reason, to go into someone else's area at Walt Disney World. So here I am now. I get to see the back area behind the front desk at the Polynesian Village. It was quite a thrill. And I'll tell you, it reminded me very much of when I worked at the Magic Kingdom, because the front desk area, which is all beautiful and fixed colorfully and just perfect and clean for all the guests, once you go beyond that door into cast member area and you go into the rooms, the paint is kind of a light tan, very drab, very bland, very institutional looking, no color on the walls. The counters that were around were just there. They looked well used and worn. It looked like they hadn't done anything in that room since the inception of the opening of that property back in 1971. So it's a little bit of a culture shock when you see the difference between guest areas and cast member areas. Even though I've gone through that culture shock before and I've seen it, I really, to be honest with you, I was expecting something a little bit fancier for, guest services and front desk at the Polynesian Village Resort Hotel. But there certainly is a double standard as far as what's acceptable for guest areas and what's acceptable for cast member areas, and it's functional, and that's the way it is. So here I am now in this back room, and there were a couple chairs, not too many. I sat down. The security manager stood. Lolo, the security guard, was there. He stood. And we began our discussion. Now, what was this all about? I'm really, really interested. I'm sure you're interested too. Well, it seems that when I got off the tram and I walked through security over to the monorail station to take the monorail over to the Polynesian, I had my camera phone on, which I did because I was videotaping from the time I got out of my car and took the tram, and I was walking just like any other guest over to the monorail and just, video so I can share it with my friends, through my videos. And apparently they didn't like that. And I was baffled by that because I walked right through. I wasn't stopped at security for any reason. I walked through the metal detectors. There was no beeps, no anything. Nobody stopped me. As a matter of fact, I had seen the one officer was I think it was an Orange County police officer. He had a police dog he was walking with that was nearby me, and I said, "Oh, look at the doggy. The dog was cute." And he kind of looked at me, and then I went through the metal detectors with everyone else. And as I passed by, there was one plainclothes manager there who we exchanged smiles. I mean, everything was pleasant. Everything was fine. There were no issues whatsoever. And I walked through the ticket area because I already had my ticket and over to the monorail, as I showed you on my video, and took the monorail over to the Polynesian. I mean, there was no issue whatsoever. Everything was just very, very nonchalant and everyday. It was an everyday activity. Guests do it every day. I've done it a million times. There's been nothing unusual here. So after I got on the monorail and I got off at the Polynesian, there was no issues there, and I walked through with my camera on, showing the Polynesian, and you saw me getting my Mickey, and I spoke with the cast member who was selling me my Mickey, and then I am detained at the Polynesian monorail when I want to leave, and was going to take everybody to the Grand Floridian. Well, apparently they got a call from somebody who said that they were concerned because I guess I was somebody of interest that walked through with my camera on. Now, the part that kind of bothers me here is if I was standing out as a person of interest and they were concerned and wanted to question me, why wasn't I questioned when I was at security? I mean, if the problem was that I'm walking through and I got my camera on, why wouldn't somebody come over to me then and say, would you mind, can we talk to you? And, relieve their concerns then. Instead, nobody said anything. I was perfectly fine, got on the monorail, could have gone anywhere. I happened to go to the Polynesian, could have gone anywhere. What was the problem that was so severe that nobody stopped me at security? Isn't that the purpose of security? Well, I said to the security manager, I says, I'm surprised. I says, why are you not allowed to have your camera phone on when you go through security? Well, they don't want their protocol to be compromised, I guess, by somebody taking video of it. Well, I can get that, and I try to be very open-minded and understanding. And I said, out of experiences of my own, I asked the security manager, I says, how is a guest supposed to know that? Are there signs posted when you get to security that says no camera use over here? She said there were signs. I says, well, I didn't see any signs. Certainly they weren't prominently displayed. And I went back later, of course, to check this, and there were no signs. They had a disclaimer sign that was kind of a sandwich sign out of the way that nobody's going to read, which basically says that they can do whatever they want for any reason. And that's fine because it is private property and they can. Just like in my store, it's private property and I can have my rules and so on. However, there's a difference here. The difference is in my store, which I'm at right now, and I was going to show you, for the purposes of my video, in my store, prominently, I have signs that say, notice, no photos or video without prior written permission. They're not hidden on some side corner. They're around. They're very, very prominent. As you walk over, you walk in, you look around the store. Look, there's a big sign right up there. You can't miss it. There's another one over here. There's another one over there. Very, very prominent, very bold, black and white. So you can read, notice no photos or videos without prior. And that's because I have a reason that I don't want photos and videos in my store. I'm here for people to participate playing my games. My bread and butter is for people who are playing my games. And when people come in just to take pictures, they're not spending money in my store. They're not supporting my store by being there. They're just here to take pictures. And I often allow it, but I need to know, what's the situation? What are you doing? Now, here we are at Disney. Certainly, I'm not somebody who's coming in there spending no money. I spend a lot of money, as everybody who goes to Walt Disney World, but it is their property and it is their rules, and they make those rules for everyone else to follow. That is perfectly fine. I have no issue with that whatsoever. The only question comes in there, why weren't there prominently posted signs if you don't want videos in a certain area? And more so, why didn't somebody come over to me and say, I'm sorry, sir, we don't allow video in this area. Could you turn your camera off? I mean, that's pretty simple. It is a security check-in. So I'm walking through security. If security is there and has a problem with my phone being on, by all means, come over and say, hey, turn the phone off. No problem. Turn the phone off. But instead of doing that, not only did they smile at me and let me go through, but then somebody on the radio puts an all points bulletin out to find me wherever I went. Now, I'm not hard to find. I'm a single guy. I'm dressed in black. I had my hat on as usual. It's not like I'm hiding in the crowd. Now, if you're going to profile people, you could say I'm a single male, middle-aged, dressed in black. This could be a profile for somebody who's a terrorist. If you want to go that far and you want to use the illusion of the movies, terrorists don't always dress in black and they're not always middle-aged single men walking alone. But for whatever reason, security was concerned about my presence, and I have a certain presence, particularly, when I'm on home grounds, which to me, going to Disney is going home because I've been there so many times and I'm a former cast member. So my acting and my demeanor probably isn't such as a regular guest. I'm not in awe of everything going on around me because I've seen it a million times. I'm just comfortable being there, and I walk with a certain stature of being myself, and being alone, I walk alone. So if they see something that concerns them, they have every right to question and basically want to protect the situation, not only their property, but everybody else is there. They don't know me from Adam. They don't know anybody else from Adam. You have a very large company with 40, 50, 60,000 people who work there. These people don't know me. I'm walking through. They're hired there hourly as security guards. They could easily have gotten a job at Kentucky Fried Chicken just the same. Instead, they applied to work at Walt Disney World and they're security host. So somebody was concerned. Somebody said something to, I guess, a manager over there about their concern. And then suddenly now I'm a risk. I'm a person of interest, and they've got an all points bulletin out through security radios to find him and detain him so he can be questioned. And this is what happened. So at the Polynesian, as I'm going back to the monorail, I'm detained and I'm stopped and I'm held for the security manager. So we were in the back room and we're having the discussion. And I said to her, I says, I'm surprised you didn't have any signs. How is a guest supposed to know that you don't want cameras over there? And if that's the case and you don't, why didn't anybody say anything when I was doing it? Instead, they let me do it, let me go through, and then I'm hunted down, on property. It just doesn't quite add up. At least it's not done the way it should be done. And in their defense, again, and I'm always looking to defend them, you have a lot of people who are not professional police officers. They don't take law enforcement courses. They're not studying criminal justice. They're a security guard. They get a course, I'm sure, but they don't know everything. So you have somebody who shows a concern, probably an hourly employee who doesn't know the laws or anything of this nature, and suddenly it's a concern and they're acting upon a concern, and that's good. That means they're protecting all of us who go to Walt Disney World. That is the purpose of having security. You have them to watch for people of interest, the people who stand out, so that they can be stopped and questioned. Lord, I hope it never happens that somebody walks through who is a real threat and they are stopped. So I have no problem with somebody questioning me and asking me what's going on, what I'm doing, and the whole rigmarole. So here I am in the back room. We're having the discussion. So she wants to see my video. And I have nothing to hide, so I show her my video. And she said when she saw me walking by the police officer with the dog, "Oh, you have our dog on camera, you have to delete that." Well, I guess the dog is camera shy and nobody ever saw any dogs, but that's fine. If somebody wants me to delete something that I feel and I understand what their circumstance is, I'm on their property, absolutely, there's no problem with that. So it was deleted because they asked me to delete it. Simple. I mean, it's not like you have to, take me to court and show me the rule book. They asked me to delete it. I deleted it. That's fine. So now we're still waiting, and in walks another lady. And when she walks in, she's nicely dressed. And I said to her, I says, and who might you be? And she says, I'm the duty manager for 2 hotels. So my answer to that was, wow, for 2 hotels, I guess they have you stretched pretty thin. I said, I'm sorry they, had to interrupt your busy schedule to send you over here, just for me and this, but, be that as it may, here you are. So, what would you like to know? And they wanted to see my driver's license. Okay. Well, again, I have nothing to hide. So I gave them my driver's license, and Lolo was there acting like a good little, employee, writing down all my driver's license information. And they asked me my phone number. Absolutely, give them my phone number. I told them, I'm down at my house here in Florida. They wanted to know my house in Florida address. Absolutely, here's my house in Florida address. They wanted to know my email address. Okay, absolutely, I gave them my email address. And now, while I'm standing there, sitting in the chair, and they're standing there and we're just talking, they're going to run me through investigations because they want to see just who I am and if I'm any kind of a threat. And, hats off to them. Hats off for being thorough. For checking somebody to see, just how legitimate they are. But clearly you can't do that to every guest that's walking in that gate. And anyone who has their camera phone on, I guess, is a person of interest and, risks being detained and stopped and going through this. And it's taking a good chunk of time out of my day. So I'm saying to myself, it's interesting that they want my email address because I know that by having my email address, they can search through the Walt Disney Company email server and find any emails that have been communication with me and anyone at Walt Disney Company, not just Walt Disney World, California, Shanghai, Tokyo, Euro Disney. Any emails that's going through the Walt Disney Company goes through their server, and they have the ability very easily by searching my email to find out who I have communicated with, if I wrote any threatening letters to Walt Disney Company or anything of this nature. I mean, then obviously I would be a threat and a risk, and they would, have had me, I guess, arrested or anything of this nature. But I had no problem with it, because I know that when they find the email communications that have been between me and people at Walt Disney World, they will find people who I've spoken with who are on the top level of executive level at Walt Disney World, because these are people I used to work with 40 years ago at Walt Disney World, who I've maintained friendships with. And you'll find the president of one park, you'll find the COO of another park, and these are people who are on my communications list with personal level communications between me and the Walt Disney Company. So I had to chuckle to myself, knowing that they are searching my email through their server and knowing what they're going to find. So that was a little interesting. But they're also searching me on the FBI database, and I'm laughing at myself again, because I've gone through at least 2, possibly 3 FBI clearances in the last 3 months, where they search everything about you and your background and your history, and they go back to the day of one. At least 3 FBI clearances I've gone through in the last 3 months. So I know I am sparkling clean as far as anything they're going to find. And if they just Google my name on the internet, you're going to find plenty of stuff which will be of interest to them also, which a lot of it, has connections with me and my history of Walt Disney World. So this, to me, to be honest with you, is like the best e-ticket ride that anybody could possibly experience at Walt Disney World. Because here I am, in a back room office that I never would normally get to see behind the front desk at the Polynesian, speaking with 2 upper level people, the security manager and the duty manager for 2 hotels at Walt Disney World. And I'm getting to have a conversation with them, knowing that I have no risk here, because I'm as sparkling, squeaky clean as you could possibly get for a Walt Disney World investigation. And they're going through their due diligence and doing their thing, and they're being very, very, professional, stoic, it's almost comical, but I'm playing the game and going through the routine, not being disrespectful whatsoever, giving them whatever information they want. I told them I was a former cast member. They asked me where. I told them that. They can go search that if they like. The whole rigmarole, the whole deal. So once they got their answer back from investigations, which she went out of the room in order to get, then all the smiles came on, because I guess they found out, that I was not only no threat. And as I said to them just before they got that information back, I said to them, I'm not your enemy. I am your friend here. I am part of Walt Disney World's history. I have lived it. I'm still living it. I'm just not, any threat whatsoever, but they don't know that. And they're doing their job as security to protect everyone. So every guest who goes through those gates, every guest who comes to Walt Disney World knows they have security and they are watching what's going on. And this is not a bad thing. This is a good thing. I did say to them at one point, I said, if I was a normal guest, I says, this wouldn't go over too well, because quite honestly, it can be very intimidating. You're being detained by official law enforcement, their law enforcement, which is security. And for any reason, they could decide that they don't want you, and they could trespass you and, have you arrested by, saying you did something or whatever. You don't know. It's just an unknown factor. It's a little disheartening. But knowing that I am who I am, I knew that this was just going to be an e-ticket adventure, and exactly what it was. And, when we left, I said goodbye to everybody. I missed saying goodbye to Lolo, because Lolo, the duty manager, sent him away after they got my clearance and knew that, I was no issue, sent him back to his duties. And, I only got to say goodbye to the security manager and the duty manager, which was fine. But, it was actually fun. It was an experience not everybody gets to experience. And I'm sharing it with you because I want everybody to know, first of all, why my next video does not go to the Grand Floridian. As I said, I wanted to go to Grand Floridian. That's where I stopped the video because I no longer had the time. I had to get to the Contemporary so I could try to have my dinner at Chef Mickey and then catch the electrical water pageant on Bay Lake, which appears at 10:05 nightly. So I didn't get to show you the Grand Floridian. I'm sorry, just didn't have the time because I went on this other adventure, which was interesting and fun, and I couldn't videotape it for you because it wouldn't have been appropriate, and I just wanted to share the story with you because it's an important story to know. It's important to know that in our world today, with things that go on, there are heightened risks. Everybody is a possible suspect, and they have the right and the duty to worry about what's going on. I think it should have been handled a little better from the beginning. If there was a problem with me walking with a camera through a area, then they should have stopped me then and said that there was a problem then. They didn't. But again, you have to understand, you have a lot of hourly employees who are frontline, who are working security, and they don't know what to do in certain circumstances. It struck somebody odd enough that they reported it to their superior, and the superior felt that the guy saying it to him was credible enough that there was some risk that was in his eye, so that's why I was stopped. I don't know if this is still recording. I just got some kind of message there. Yeah, it's still recording. Okay, so that's what I wanted to say. I wanted everybody to know. So you're really pretty safe when you go to a place like Walt Disney World in Florida, because if they would stop me and detain me to find out just who I am, I guess they're watching pretty well. Now, you can't stop everything and everybody, but, hats off to Walt Disney World and their security, and thanks for the adventure of being detained and getting to talk with all the higher-ups from security and the duty manager and seeing the special back rooms at the Polynesian Village Resort Hotel behind the front desk. And then after that, I went to Chef Mickey. I managed to get in with not having a reservation, and then I got to see my electrical water pageant, which I will share the electrical water pageant experience with you on one of my following videos. So I hope you had fun. I hope you understand this video. I'm not trying to be negative here at all, because I am a friend of Walt Disney World's. I have part of my family built into me by having been there so many years, and also a cast member. And I understand they are concerned about the real world and how it can infiltrate their property and affect them and their guests. So feel safe. Walt Disney World, I will be back again when I can. And thanks for another fun-filled experience that not too many other people get. And I didn't even have to pay for it. It was complimentary. How do you beat that? So we'll see you next time on the Randy's Adventure series on my special YouTube channel. Thanks, friends. We'll see you next time. Bye.